So, getting back to the Mele Ola Ikaha. So, I already spoke about the birth of Haloa Kekalo, the firstborn of Ho'ohoku Kalani. Then we spoke a little bit about Haloa Kekanaka, the second of Ho'ohoku Kalani, and attached to his name being Nakalau Kapalili from the quivering leaf. And we talked about how that was to honor the birth of his elder brother, who in a sense gave up his life because the first Haloa expired after birth and was buried near the home of the parents. And then from his body grew the kalo. And we talked about the importance of the makahiapo. And in the genealogy, this is very important to remember. We're born from the land, from the Aina, but the kalo was born first, not man. So we're born from the womb of Mother Earth. And that is our pilina. And like Haloa implies everlasting or long breath, so is the life force that comes from the Aina to the people of the Aina. Pili no ke kahi, we are connected to one another. Pili no ke kahi a mauloa. And that connection is really a connection forever. So Haloa, the long breath, the everlasting breath, manifests through the kalo. And then, of course, the second child, Haloa Kekanaka, Haloa Nakalau Kapalili. And again, that's our connection. And remember when we talked about the aha, the cord that connects all of us, the cord from Akua, the creator of all things, and how the Akua manifests in the Kinolau of Aina, and then how we born from the Aina. So this cord connects all of us, and it represents something very, very, very important, and that is kuleana, responsibility. Na mea I ko'i, hapai ia maluna o ke po'ohivi. These are the responsibilities that are placed, that we carry on our shoulders. And it's not a responsibility that we can choose. It's a responsibility, a kuleana, a birthright that we come into this world with, that we have to malama ke akua. We have to malama the aina, and we have to malama one another. And it's the mo'okuauhau. It's our genealogy. And that we are connected, piliponono maua mau, we are connected to forever. You see, and this is what the chant Ola Ikaha that I wrote 40 years ago is talking about. You see, Ola Ikaha in the breath, Ola Ikavai, life that comes from the water, Ola Ikai, and then life that comes from the spirit. So the first line, Ola Ikaha, reflects Haloa. Haloa Kekalo, Haloa Nakalau Kapalili, coming through Ho'ohoku Kalani, who is a manifestation of Papahanaumoku, and Vakea. You see, Vakea, the Sky Father, and Papahanaumoku, the Earth Mother. Their child Ho'ohoku Kalani, and then her children Haloa Nakalau, Haloa Kekalo, and Haloa Nakalau Kapalili. Now, remember now, the father of the Haloa is Vakea also. But you know what we have to remember is this, that, people may say, well, that's ancestral kinds of relationship. But in understanding the genealogy, you have to remember that Ho'ohoku Kalani was a kinolau of Papahanaumoku. So some genealogies say the Haloas were born from Papahanaumoku. Well, of course, in the manifestation of now Ho'ohoku Kalani. So these are things that kukalakupua, these are things that are kind of magical, kupayanaha, amazing, astonishing, when we reflect back on all these beautiful mo'okuauhau genealogies and mo'olelo of our kupuna. Now, when we say ola I kawai, we speak of kawai ola akane. We speak of the water that gives us, everything we need, because as the water gives life to the aina, the water gives life to the kanaka, na ivi hanau o ka aina. And where does the water come from? It falls from Vakea, right? And it falls onto the earth in the form of ua, of rain. So now Vakea is a manifestation of the god Kane. So how these things are interrelated are really, really unique. The understanding of how they work and how they are connected is in the covenant of the words. These words are very strong words. They're very powerful words. They reflect each and every aspect of the creation of the Hawaii, starting with, again, malama ke akua I ka pono, because there is an order to everything. Malama I ka aina me ka pono, because there is an order to the aina also. Malama ina iwi hanau o ka aina I ka pono, because we have to perpetuate and be and live that pono that comes down from Vakea to Papa and then to all of us. Kane I kawai ola, Kane, who is the god of water, kawai ola akane, the healing waters of the god Kane. You see, so we have the breath of life, and then we have the sustainment of life, and now we talk about ola ika and the is the most superior thing. The we associate back again to the akua, because the spirit that we bear as part of the ha loa is the spirit of the akua. So you see how it forms a complete encirclement in that it begins with akua in every aspect of ha loa. Because like the kalo that needs vai, the kanaka needs vai also. Ola ke kalo I ka vai, pu ali ali no me ka vai ole. Same with the kanaka. Ola ke kanaka I ka vai, pu ali ali no I ka vai ole, ka vai ola akane. So like the kalo, we need the water too. And when the kalo get good, clean water, then the kalo gonna grow strong. But when the kalo no more water, pu ali ali no, it's gonna grow the way it can, misshapen and weak. Well, we need the water too, or we gonna grow the same way, misshapen and weak. That could be reflected as disconnected, and we have to be connected. We have to understand our relationship to all of these things. So again, ola ikaha, right? Life in the breath of life. Ola ikavai, the sustainment, water will sustain the life. And ola ikai, the great spirit, the most superior. And in ancient times, they referred to the god Io. Ola ikai, Io ona lani. Io ona lani nui a mamau. Io of the heavens and beyond into the greater universe. Io ona lani nui a mamau, that it continues greater into the depth of the universe. And that, of course, was the name of the old god. Some people call Ia ona lani nui a mamau. Io onalani nuia mamau, but that just reflects what is tangible and what is not. So io, like our io, is the things we can see, the manifestations of the God. The ya, like oya, he, she, or it, what we cannot see, yeah, and that is the pono of that akua. Because remember now, everything has a form of duality depending on how you're going to look at that. So in this particular situation of the God E, there is the tangible that you can see, feel, touch, yeah, as Eo manifests in every living thing, and every living thing is connected to Eo, and then you get Ya, the things that we can feel, sense, and understand. And those three components connect in Ha Vai E. And that's a very powerful mantra, a very powerful prayer in itself. Ha Vai E. And repeating that Ha Vai E. And then once you understand the meaning, you don't need 100 words to feel, sense, and understand, now that that's been explained, the mana, the power within those words. Hawaii, Hawaii, Hawaii. So it goes, Ola ika ha, Ola ika vai, Ola ika I, Hawaii, Hawaii, Hawaii. Now the E also connects us to Ka'i I Amamau. Ka'i I Amamau, yeah, is the Ali'i for whom the Kumulipo was written. And the Kumulipo takes us to the very creation of everything. And then you can see how it begins with Akua, then Aina, and then all the creations. Ka'i'i Amamau. So remember we talked about Io Onalani Nuia Mamau. We talked about Ia Onalani Nuia Mamau, and now Ka'i I Amamau. Wow. So we're not only here, but we're way out into the universe. That's our connections. And that's powerful. How do we control that? How do we control that within ourselves so that we understand how we connected to all of that? That is not just right here and right now, but from the Akua to the Aina to us, and then beyond what our human eyes can see. And those things are in the Inoa, the names, yeah, as mentioned, Io Onalani Nuia Mamau, Ia Onalani Nuia Mamau, Ka'i A Mamau. Old names that held ancient knowledges that we speak about in this chant. So, Ike aku ike mai, Ike aku ike mai. Recognized and be recognized is a very simple translation. Ike is knowledge. When knowledge is given, when knowledge is handed down, always remember, when you share the knowledge, to remember the person who shared the knowledge with you. So at this point of the explanation of the chant, I talk about Auntie Emma DeFries, who took me from my grandparents who had prepared me for the next part of my journey into the greater understanding of spirituality and the connections from our kupuna. Auntie Emma was trained at Keaiwaiwa Heiau in Aiea by her kupuna, Kaleo Ha'alulu na Pahi. And Auntie Emma, as she was getting older, was looking for, he vaihona no ka ia mau ike, someplace she could deposit all the ike. And she came and found me with my grandparents. And the interesting thing about this story was Auntie Emma, when she came to my grandmother, and kuka no la ua I ka olelo Hawaii e pili ana no, kona ho au mai ana ia o me ke ia ike o na kupuna. They talked about this with my grandmother and telling my grandmother she was going to take me to enlighten me in these old traditions. And I heard in the conversation she telling my grandmother the reason she was there because pili koko no ma ko oyo no kono olelo. She said we are related by blood. And I never understood that until the things that are being revealed today through DNA, that was indeed true, that we have a very deep blood relation. And these things now, as Auntie told me, would be revealed. And now is the time of revelation. And this is the reason why, since her passing in 1980, that I've continued with this legacy that was imparted to me in teaching, in inspiring, in educating. And now maybe is the time when people want to listen about these old things that were taught to me at Keaiwaiwa also. So I'm very familiar with that place, magical place, Aiwaiwa, mysterious, wondrous beings. There's a chant about Hi'iaka as she moves forward, and they talk about she's coming with all this Aiwaiwa, these spiritual wondrous beings. Ke Aiwaiwa Heiau in Aiea. So I had to go and learn the pule and learn the stories about Ke Aiwaiwa with Auntie. All right, let's continue on with our Oli. So it says, Vākea kalani, papa ka honua, no ka luna ko luna, no ka lalo ko lalo. Well, in this great word called pono, there's an order. There's an order. And at the order, at the top, if you're following the hand motions, ke kuhiana no o kalima, Vākea is at the top, Vākea kaluna. Papa ka honua. That's important in understanding pono, because the honua is not here and the lani is not here. The lani is here. The honua is here. What does that say? Very simply, it says there is nothing without order. Everything has order to it. And it's our kuleana as iwihanau o ka'aina to maintain those orders. Vākea kea kua o ka lani, papa kea kua o ka honua. But it doesn't end there with Vākea, the god of the sky, the heavens, and Papa, the goddess of the earth. No. I already said, Hea kua kawai. Water is a god. Kai o Kanaloa, that's a god. Kahekili, the lightning is a god. La'amaumau, the wind is a god. Our kupuna exists everywhere in this ma lama lama, this glow of light, this glow of nurturing and care, this glow of honor and respect. Ma lama lama, ma lama ke akua, kini akua. There are many of them. They are our kupuna, and we have to look at them as kupuna, our ancestors. Na kinilani, the aumakua, the host of gods in the sky, in the heavens. Na kinihonua, the host of gods here on earth. There is nothing other than what man built. There is nothing here and there that is not connected to Akua. And I think for the main part, perhaps we've all learned part of that respect and honor for all these things. But we have to open up our insight, become more enlightened in the understanding of those pilina, those connections. Yeah. We cannot look at the ground as just mere ground. We cannot look at the La'au Ulu as just an ulu tree. We cannot look at these things anymore in that context. Yeah, we have to see the La'au Niu, the coconut tree, as the god Ku. We have to see the ulu tree as the goddess Kamehai. And then everything becomes sacred. And as it becomes sacred, we understand our place and our kuleana as connected to all of these things. And that we are not disconnected, but we are connected to all of these wonderful things that make us Hawaii, as I have already mentioned, Hawaii. That in this great Kumulipo genealogy, yeah, this great story about the emergence of everything that Hawaii is, that we're not separate from anything, that we're absolutely connected to everything. No kaluna ko luna, no kalalo ko lalo. So again, a reflection, an olelo no eau, that puts everything in perspective. No kaluna ko luna, no kalalo ko lalo. Everything for up is up, everything for down is down. That's about order. And what is the order? You get the akua, you get the aumakua, you get the kupuna, you get the makua, you get the opio, you get the keiki. But it seems that we're in flip-flop. We're in flip-flop, and we forgot that we don't control the order. And when we flip-flop the order, that's where we get confusion, yeah? Total confusion about who get the kuleana to be the teachers, the leaders, the guides. Kupuna, we're just one part of that. Older than us is the Olelo Hawaii. Older than us is that period of time where everything was created. So our kuleana is to help people to know and understand and guide them through their own connections. So it's pili pa'aponono. You see? We already get one ali'i nui in this sovereign nation that's called Akua. He's our ali'i nui, he's our mo'i. We have to follow Akua. And then the teachings of Akua about malama, honor and respect, nurturing. We all become kahu, caretakers, custodians in the relationship with our Akua, in that everything we do reflects our Akua. The same with our Aina. And then for one another, because each and everybody that bears the blood of Hawaii bears the blood, flesh and bones of Haloa. And when you deny that, you deny your place in that genealogy. You see? If we're going to see ourselves as separate components as we try to move forward, then already it's here from the beginning. We have to see ourselves as one family, Ohana, in the blood, flesh and bones of Haloa, that is our kupuna. And again, I say, when we divide that up and we separate that, when we mahelehele ki ia mea, ke la me ke ia, already there's division. What binds us as one, and I'm going to say it again, we all carry the blood of our kupuna, no ka wā kahikoloa I ke kinohi. From the beginning of time, from the very creation, we are the descendants and we bear the same blood. And that is the most important thing that this mele is reflecting. Ola I ka ha, ola I ka vai, ola I ka I, Hawaii, Hawaii, Hawaii. Vakea kalani, papa ka honua, no ka luna ko luna, no ka lalo ko lalo. Ho'o hoku kalani ka wahine, haloa ke kalo, haloa ke kanaka. And this next line says, haloa ka koe, that we are all the descendants of Haloa. O ka pono no ia e. That pono is exactly what it is. We cannot change that. We're going to try and change that. The opio going to try be the kupuna when we already get kupuna. The opio going to try be the akua. We already get akua. So we're going to take all of these things out of the pono, and then we're going to call them pono. The pono you and create. The pono is the perfect order that came down to us from our kupuna. And you know what? I don't care who you are, keiki, opio, makua, you all came from one kupuna. If our ancient kupuna weren't born, we wouldn't be here today. And this is why there is such great regard for the word kupuna and the people that are kupuna. You know, there's an old term, ha vena or ha vena vena. When people act like they kupuna to the extent they're going to dye their hair all white so they look like kupuna. Awe ke aloha e. The PhD took 8 years. The kupuna took 65 plus years and still growing. Pehe mai nei ke la manao.
Mahalo nui kumu. So everybody got the oli, yeah. So what I was doing when Kumu was sharing was doing the oli. I went on to the messenger and I was following Kumu. That's why I was trying to mimic the words when Kumu was doing them. But Kumu, if can on the messenger do the recording on that, and then I can send them out to everybody over here too, because yeah.
So I'm going to do it from the beginning, the oli, then I go and do the motions after. I'm going to stand up and show you guys the motions. So it's already recorded, but in the recording, because I do it for my papahula, makekulo o kamakau, so it might be a little bit different, but the words and everything is the same. And it's not hard. It's very simple. I'll show you. So first I'll go do the oli, okay?
Kumu,
yes.
Kumu.
Yes.
But before that, was it true that the Nakane was that did was when hula first, yeah.
Okay.
Then the wahine went hula after. Is that true? That's what I heard. That the Kane when hula first. Only time when wahine went hula was during war when all the Nakane was off to bed. So can you share
Okay.
on that?
So I'm gonna try to be brief. Of course, there's so much more to expound on. There are so many traditions of hula. There is a Pele tradition of hula. There's the Ke'au Mele Mele tradition of hula. Then there is a story about the men dancing hula first. There are two Laka. Laka, the Wahine, goddess of the hula. Laka, the Kane, the goddess, the god, Kalamai, the god of navigation. But yet, they're really combined as one because one is a journey of words telling the stories through the oli, the mele, and the hula, and the other one is the actual journey on the ocean. Yeah. So understanding how the two are combined is good understanding in trying to understand everybody's place within the tradition of hula. There are hula goddesses and there are hula gods. That's for another long talk. Yeah. We know of the hula goddesses, but how are they connected to the hula gods and who are the hula gods? Okay. But to address very briefly one story of the many about men and hula. So if you go back to the many tradition of the heiau, and from what I was enlightened with, high-born males were allowed within the structure of the heiau. At every level of ceremony and spiritual service, in honoring and in respect to the gods, everything was done by the men, which include kaho'okani ano o kapahu, the playing of the huge drums, and also the hula. So at these religious ceremonies to honor the akua within the walls of the heiau, the men, of course, had to be the ones to dance the hula. And of course, there were areas that high-born women were allowed, but not everyone was allowed within the heiau, and not everyone was able to participate in the very sacred ceremonies that concern the nu'u, the oracle tower, yeah? And again the hula connected to that, the nu'u or the ni'o, again within the structure of the heiau. If I understand what our kupuna told me correctly, it was only the males that participated, and that is their role. Yeah. Now, how was that hula done? That's another story because I taught my children hula, and my son said to me one day, "Dad, when I watch you dance the hula, your hands, they're very magical. They're very slow and they're very graceful." And I said, "Oh, my kai, you observed that?" He said, "Yeah." But he said, "I observed something else too." And I said, "And what is that?" That just masks the intensity and the strength of the words that come with that hula. I said, "You see, that's what our people forget. They like jump around with clubs and sticks and bash one another and start screaming and yelling." Our tutu said, you malama ikelama mea ilokone. When the right time come out, then it's gonna come out. So we don't need ho ike everything we are. Malama pono. Malama ikelama mea a malama ia ihono. You take care of that. You see? Just like when the Tai Chi master come out and their movement is so beautiful and flowing. But be careful. Be careful. They mana. They get plenty mana. They don't need to hit you with one club. They're going to hit you with the power, and then you're going to understand. And that is the kind of hula that I learned from Auntie Emma. Okay,